Welcome to the November 2021 horoscopes. I am Ms. Jenny and I am your astrologer. This is the channel for Primal Girl Wellness and Down to Earth Astrology. So, my friends, fasten your seatbelts because we have quite the November adventure in front of us. Now, the month is pretty much demarcated into two parts. We've got the first 2 weeks and then we've got the second 2 weeks. Two very, very different feels for the month, but totally connected. So, the first week of the month, give me 1 second here. Yeah. The first week of the month is not great. We're not going to get a lot productive done between the 2nd and the 6th. So mark your calendars from November 2nd to November 6th. Don't expect to get a lot productive done. Try not to start anything new if you can avoid it, because things will not necessarily go according to plan and not pan out the way you're expecting them to. So new jobs and new relationships are, if you can avoid it, try not to initiate these things until after the 6th, or certainly before the 2nd. Also, this first week of the month really does feel like you're like a between a rock and a hard place expression. So our options are not going to be ideal. Our choices that we're working with are not going to be what we consider the greatest, and will certainly not give us a lot of flexibility in terms of what we can work with. So again, this is kind of like why we want to avoid starting new stuff until after the 6th. So the first week of the month, we're kind of doing a cleanup, and it's like literally reaching the end of the bottom of the barrel, or what's left, and what's left to work with is not a whole lot. Now, some things to understand as we go through the month. The first thing is Mercury is moving fast, whoosh, moving fast like lightning. So expect everything to move fast. Also, expect people to be busy. Like we're literally going to blink our eyes and the whole month is going to be gone by the time we get to the end of it, that kind of fast. The other thing is that Neptune, I made a mistake in the last report. Neptune is stationing officially direct. It stands still and turns direct December 1st. So we're feeling it now. Make no mistake about it. Everything I said about Neptune in the last week of October still applies. But any events specific to the Neptune station, we will not see until the last week of this month, right? And certainly closer to December 1st when Neptune comes to a complete standstill. So expect elevated themes of compassion and tenderness and kindness to be really significant, meaningful, and operative through the entire month. So for those of you who are not generally any of these things, kind, unselfish, compassionate, this for you, this month is going to feel a lot like business as usual. But for those of you who are all of those things and believe in protecting the underdog and believe in all the good things that you should be, because you consider yourself a spiritually aware person, you try to practice that in your life, all those things that you do by rights and nature, being kind, compassionate, tender, rooting for the underdog, protecting those who can't protect themselves, all of those things are going to be the very hidden blessings that protect you and give you benefit this month. So you just keep doing you, boo. Don't stop. Okay. Now, so the first week of the month is a little like it literally kind of feels like you got to the dinner late and what's left on the table is, the lean pickings of what's left. And that's going to be the whole first week of November. There's no way around it. So just, work with it as best you can, or delay major important things until later if you can get away with it. However, here's the challenge. When we get into the second week of November, it's not necessarily a love fest, and here's why. The second week of November carries a quarter moon at 19 Aquarius. Now, this particular quarter moon is a little challenging because at the same time, we have a T-square happening with a Mercury-Mars conjunction, ouch, in Scorpio, double ouch, opposing Uranus, yikes, and both of them making a square to Saturn in Aquarius, with Saturn in Aquarius being the leg of the T-square. Oh my God. So if you have ever wondered what it would be like to, I don't know, go on a vacation in hell with your coworkers, the ones you don't like, for a week, on a cruise ship, a cruise ship in hell with coworkers you don't like. This is going to be the second week of November. Now, well, for many of us, not all of us. Now, here's the thing to understand when we're going through this particular second week of November. We are not necessarily able to make it work with us, because this is not a flexible week. This is not a week about the universe working with us. This is definitely a week about us working with the universe. So this particular week and that quarter moon is absolutely about making the decision, doing what's got to get done, and getting on with getting on. So if you have things that need some type of compromise or workaround or cooperation, and some flexibility, you're going to need to get that ball rolling the first week or sooner, or build that into your plans, because when we get to the second week of November, there will be no flexibility, there will be no compromises. People will dig their heels in, draw a line in the sand, and this is it, and this is what's what. So the people who are able to stay calm and be flexible as best you can be without being steamrolled over, and also stick to your principles while finding a way to hear people without necessarily getting into them, will benefit most during this week. Other people who are just being obstinate to be obstinate, or who don't have a plan B, and that's what you got to have for this week. You've got to have a plan B for whatever your plans are. People who don't have a plan B may panic and dig their heels in even deeper, and feel like they have to justify being right about things they're not even right about, because they feel like any concession at this point would be suicide, right? Think of Kirsten Cinema, whatever her name is, as an example. Like, she's dug a hole so deep she may never see daylight again. So she literally, for her to make any kind of concession or compromise at this point, because she's dug herself in so deep, like that grave is so deep she could bury her and 26 of her ancestors in her with her. For her to make any concession at all literally means to surrender, wave the white flag of surrender, and basically say that she's a complete idiot, and hang herself out to dry, which, she can't do because she doesn't have a plan B. She was wrong from the beginning, and now she's defended being right when she's not for so long that now there's nothing to defend. Like, it's just lay down and roll over, right? Or die in a process, which is pretty much what she's doing in her career. So while we're laughing at her, understand that this also applies to us. So with that said, pay attention and have a plan B, and understand that if you can make some adjustments and tweaks now before we get there, it'll be a lot less you have to lose if you're backed into a corner at that time. It's the second week of November, from November 8th to 14th. It's just going to be a nightmare. So, brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. When we get to the third week of November, this is going to be interesting, because this is going to be the eclipse week. Now, for those of you who are thinking that this particular eclipse, because it does conjunct the fixed star Algol, is going to be, a horrible, awful week. Oh my God, Algol! It's not. It's not. This is actually going to be a really productive week. And you're going to find that people are much more generously disposed to each other, is a way to put it. Kinder, nicer, having all the feels, feeling more deeply and more lovingly to each other during this week. Now, this particular Algol eclipse is in the Saturn Decan and the Pisces Dwad, which absolutely has a lot to do with the most underprivileged and the most underserved in our societies, right? People are at the greatest disadvantage. So we can expect this particular eclipse to have everything to do with taking care of the people who can't take care of themselves and defending people who can't defend themselves. This is very much the eclipse. It's about the underdog and standing up, doing what's right. So, separate from that, things will flow and move a lot better, right? So if you have important things that you can put off until closer to the 15th, the week of the 15th to 21st, things will move smoother. This is not to say that things will be impossible if you start them before this date. This is to say that it will be things started before now. These first 2 weeks of November are going to be much more energetic, much more invigorating, and much more demanding of your ability to be agile and strategic and energetic and strong, to uphold the burdens and responsibilities that go with it. There's going to be a lot more required of you as an adult, anything you start during the first 2 weeks of November, as opposed to the third week of November and the fourth week of November, which is going to garner you a lot more cooperation and support in the things that you're trying to accomplish. So nothing's impossible. The difference is what is the outcome or the gain from these situations. So, and what kind of work do we have to put in to get there? So the third week of November is actually a very sweet week in spite of the eclipse. People may still be a little riled up, and certainly, there will be people who are still playing your power games, but most of this stuff is going to have hit its peak the week before. So we don't actually have a lot to worry about when we get to the third week. So I'm kind of happy about that. And this finally brings us to the last week of the month, November 22nd to 30th. Now, we do have a quarter moon on the 27th at 5 Virgo, but other than that, it's not really that big a deal. So this last week of the month, and Neptune is coming to a standstill this week. So we've actually got some really sweet things going on. This week, the things that I would look for, one is it's going to be a lot easier to figure out what we need to get done and get it done. Relationships are going to be a lot easier right now. Oh my God, a lot easier. So in the United States, I don't know about other places, but in the United States, we've got Thanksgiving Day, which is now Indigenous Peoples Day, celebrated on the 25th, I think, 25th, 26th, right around this quarter moon. And I know some people are going to have some concerns about family gatherings because, the last few years, family gatherings, at least in the United States, have just been nightmares. And certainly we're still working through a pandemic, which is making things a little more complicated. But this holiday, if you're celebrating any kind of holiday around the 27th or this last week of November, you're going to find that the holiday itself and the relationships with the people around the table will be a lot kinder. A lot kinder and a lot more gentle. So that is going to be a wonderful thing. So do focus on that and enjoy that. I mean, there's always someone who's going to try to be the exception, and it's fine. Just stick them outside with their plate. Like, oh, fine. Listen, Uncle Fred, you want to have this conversation about politics? Take your plate outside and talk to the dog. There's always going to be that person, and that's fine. But for everybody else that's gathered around in celebration or meeting, with each other during this week, whether it's friends or family, this is going to be a lovely, lovely week where even the smallest kindnesses and actions speak volumes about the feeling behind it in all the best ways. So that is our November. So expect things to move fast, expect things to be busy. The first 2 weeks of November are going to be wowza, because the first week leads into the second, and the second week is the climax or crisis week for all of these things that are kind of ramping up to a head. By the time we get to the third week of November and that eclipse, things will have calmed down tremendously. Like literally the air will have been cleared, or the playing field, whichever it is. And by the time we get to the fourth week of the month, like we're literally heading into the end of the year celebrations, and everybody, almost everybody will have gotten their head and their hearts in the right place, and we're going to start recognizing the things that matter at this time. At least for the moments that we have right now. So that is it for November. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. If I think of anything, I will certainly add them. Yeah, I don't have too much else. If you want to do a deeper dive into the month, now that we have a community tab, yay team. Now that we have a community tab, you can go over to the community tab. I do have a post for the month of November with more information, because I want to keep this video brief. For those of you who are visually impaired and don't read, I will try to remember to put this on an audio and make a podcast for you, which includes the community tab information so you don't miss any of it. And that's it. Look for a spicy, dicey month of November in the first 2 weeks, and the third and fourth week. What is it? The third and fourth week? The third and fourth week will be much better, kinder. So we'll be in a much, much healthier place as we're heading into the end of the year celebrations. Talk to you guys later.